Tonight, carnage and chaos. A stolen truck explodes in a fireball. How did he survive? The truckie who escaped this crash on the Hume Highway. Remorse from the father who left his children sweltering in a car to drink in a pub. Families return to devastation, heartbreaking scenes following the Californian fires. And Tim Cahill keeps the Socceroos World Cup dream alive, but the coach calls it quits.
This is 9 News Canberra with Vanessa O'Hanlon.
Good evening. What started as a truck theft at a petrol station has ended in disaster. A semi ploughing through the main street of Singleton in the Hunter, knocking down everything in its path before erupting into a huge fireball. More than a dozen people were injured, 2 critically.
Singleton's main street turned into a wrecking yard.
Damien Ryan is in Singleton tonight and filed this report on the investigation that's now underway.
Good evening. As you can see, the removal of this wreckage is now just beginning. As to the investigation, well, police were certainly faced with a very difficult situation trying to stop this runaway truck doing speeds of up to 100 kilometres an hour.
Damien Ryan there. Meanwhile, a truck driver could barely believe he survived a crash on the Hume Highway at Berrima today. His vehicle carrying a load of frozen chips crashing and erupting into flames.
Could a moment's inattention have caused all this?
One very lucky man. Live now to reporter Natasha Apolloni at the crash site. Tash, the Hume Highway could be shut over the bridge for much longer than expected.
That's right, Vanessa. RMS crews have assessed the damage on the bridge here after all the debris has now been cleared, and it's not looking too good. Initial reports show that the structure could have been compromised due to that inferno that we saw due to the crash. On the southbound lanes, drivers are being urged to add extra travel time to their plans or simply avoid the area altogether.
Some good advice there. Thanks, Tash. Barnaby Joyce's nemesis re-emerged in the High Court today as the barrister for political rival Tony Windsor argued the Deputy Prime Minister's New Zealand heritage should disqualify him from Parliament. If the court does rule him out, Mr Joyce may soon face another fight with Mr Windsor in a by-election for the seat of New England.
The march of silks into the High Court as Day 2 of the Citizenship 7 case is heard.
In the hope of stamping out violent crime, the ACT government would like to see the National Firearms Amnesty extended. Meanwhile, the Police Minister says he doesn't believe racial profiling is happening, despite an increase in the number of Indigenous arrests in the ACT.
From pint-sized pistols to belt-fed machine guns, just a fraction of the 800 firearms and other weapons handed into ACT policing during the National Firearms Amnesty.
The ACT opposition says documents showing the Chief Minister signed off on a land investment proposal for Glebe Park raises concerns about the sale.
Then the government purchased the Glebe Park block for $4.2 million. Despite only having a valuation saying it was worth $1 million.
A former soldier says mental health needs to be discussed as openly as general health following his long road to recovery. Todd Berry had been diagnosed with PTSD but somehow found the courage to seek help and manage his condition.
A calm warrior focusing on the stillness of yoga.
Coming up, the fatal plane crash, the aircraft that nosedived into a backyard swimming pool, the Australian of the Year with some first-hand advice for Canberra teenagers, and another round of Shanghai shenanigans from Canberra's bad boy of tennis. A domestic violence victim is bravely sharing her story, speaking in schools across the capital. She's determined to promote healthy and respectful relationships among teenagers.
Angela Barker was brutally assaulted by her ex-boyfriend in 2002 when she was 16 years old.
I'm not sure.
It was an all-female affair today at the Acting Chief Minister's office. Yvette Berry handing the reins to Youth Ambassador Caitlin Figueiredo as part of the Girls Take Over global movement.
We are the largest political takeover in the world, and we're the only takeover organised by young women.
Still to come, the new incentive to cut energy costs. The Radiant Royal, Kate, steps out for the first time since her baby announcement. And the Canberra racehorse, the Gundagai owner, and the Caulfield Cup dream. Time to have a look at sport with Mike now. Mike, you were glued to the TV last night.
Talk about exciting, Vanessa, and there's more developments today. Coming up, the most famous forehead in Australian football and the dark cloud over the coach. Also, the bizarre walk-off by Nick Kyrgios at the Shanghai Open. And finally, some good news for the Aussies on the subcontinent. Ange Postecoglou has finally cracked. Months of relentless criticism from fans and former players has taken its toll. The Socceroos coach looks set to sensationally walk away from the national team, regardless of whether or not Australia qualifies for the World Cup.
A master of the poker face, it's always hard to read Ange Postecoglou.
And staying with rugby league, Illawarra's Sam Bremner is fit and fired up for the Women's World Cup next month. She's been named in the Jillaroos squad and makes her return to the field after suffering an ankle injury earlier this year. Big as Kezi Apps, Gerringong's Ruan Sims and former Helensburgh star halfback Maddie Studden were also named. Now, after the break, stay with us. The Radiant Royal, Kate's first public appearance since her baby announcement. And, of course, Gavin with all the weather details.
To finance now, and the market was up 0.5%, the All Ords rising 33 points, and one Aussie dollar is buying 77.80 US cents. Time now to take a check of the weather, and Gav, some much needed inland rain falling tonight.
Good evening. Thank you, Vanessa. Some valuable inland rain, yes, is falling, but I'm afraid the numbers again are going to be somewhat small. Nowhere near enough, but October is looking a little healthier and there's more to come before the month is out. Today it was warm again, back into the low to mid-20s along the coast. Similar story right throughout the inland areas. The rain has been falling over central Australia, along the northern New South Wales tablelands, a few falls there. But here comes that cloud mass, looking impressive. Rain has been spilling in across the Riverina tonight and it's tracking towards the ACT, and that's going to move through overnight and during the early hours of the morning. It's a nice system. It's the beginning of a change. It's pretty good. I mean, we'd love more. The better falls are going to be across northern New South Wales and into southern Queensland tomorrow. You can see across the southern part of the state and the ACT, it's going to be travelling really quite quickly. It's going to be another gusty change, so it's going to be quite windy with another burst of southerly winds for the coast. So a cloudy start, and then the system is going to clear, in fact, and then we'll have a fine day in behind it, and then tops of, into the low 20s. So still fairly mild, actually. It's not an overly cold system by any means, and that's reflected here in the forecast. Off to the southeast. Heating back up in the west, it's cooled off in the centre. Rain on the way for Brisbane tomorrow, and the humidity continues to build across the top end. Northerly winds, very warm night, and then there's the southerly change pushing through during tomorrow. Inland, we've got the westerlies, and you've got the convergence line happening over the mountain areas throughout the evening. There's the rain falling mostly over the western slopes. The coast, you're struggling to see just a couple of drops fall. So again, we'll probably be able to just count those droplets on the windscreen. Very limited rain, if anything at all, for the coast. The coast still has the rain icons there, but you're not going to get that much. The better numbers are going to be actually inland over the western slopes, the western side of the Great Divide. Over the Monero, we should see some falls. Same for the ACT and the tablelands. That's where the better rain will be as the system quickly contracts to the northern parts of the state throughout the day. So overnight rain for Canberra and then clearing as we move through tomorrow afternoon, tops of 22. You've got a strong and a gale wind warning for Eden Waters. The swell back up to 2 metres. Another pulse in the swell on the way behind that system as it moves on through. You've got now a low tide tomorrow morning just before 8, working to the high. Sun to rise 6:20, down at about 7:12 as that moon continually wanes away. So looking ahead for Canberra, we're going to see overnight and tomorrow morning, hopefully most locations will get about 10 millimetres. The whole system travelling quite quickly, and really there's nothing much in behind it. It is going to be a very fine, consistent run with temperatures climbing into the mid-20s by the time we get to Sunday. A brief shower possible for the tablelands, but otherwise otherwise we're looking at also a fine run. For the coast, we've got some coastal shower development on the way over the weekend. Partly cloudy skies, a few showers for the Illawarra for both Saturday and Sunday with onshore winds. Not as much rain. The chance of a shower to the south is less.
Gavin, thank you. And that's 9 News for this Wednesday. I'm Vanessa Hanlon. Enjoy your evening. Good night.